Welcome, everybody. So what we're going to be talking about today is the fall 2023 Washington Internship Program. The applications are now open, by the way. The Washington Internship is one of our internship programs. It's a signature internship program. But before we go more into that, allow me to let Dr. Jacobs, our director at the Graham Center, say a few words.
Thanks, Kevin. So this is Kevin Bird, our experiential learning coordinator who oversees all of our internship program. I wanted to say a couple of quick things about the Graham Center for those of you who may not be familiar with it, either here in person or joining us remotely. And thank you for those of you who are here and enjoying the chicken. And those of you who are remote, I hope you have some chicken there to enjoy with you or your food of choice. So a couple of quick things. So as Kevin has noted, the Washington Internship Program is one of our signature programs. It's conducted in partnership with our friends at U.S. Office of Government and Community Relations, and specifically U.S. Office of Federal Relations in Washington, D.C. You'll be hearing from a representative from that office during this information session as well, I believe. The Graham Center is founded on three basic principles of civic engagement, public service, and public leadership. Very broadly defined. The opportunity to serve in an internship in Washington, D.C. becomes a way through professional development opportunities that you can learn how to effectively engage, lead, and serve, right? And so that's kind of how those are connected. Obviously, we want to be involved in training the next generation of elected officials, but just because you pursue a Washington, D.C. internship does not necessarily mean that you have to be wanting to pursue a career path as an elected official or something like that. There are many, many ways that you can engage, lead, and serve. We have alums of the Graham Center working in all different capacities and communities all around Florida, all around the country, and including in Washington, D.C. And many of them over the last few years have participated in something like the Washington Internship Program. The other point I want to mention really quickly is that why internship programs more generally? So experiential learning is really, really critical to gaining both the professional skills that you need, but also to learning what matters to you as individuals, right? So Governor and Senator Graham was very, very keen on the idea of learning by doing. That we learn a lot in the classroom, but it's really the opportunity to apply that knowledge, to connect it to real world experiences that really helps you advance, helps you develop the mindsets and skill sets necessary to engage, lead, and serve. So that learning by doing piece is really, really critical. If you look around this room that you're in, you'll see photos like this one where Bob is in the Everglades. You'll see one in the back where he's operating a major drill. One is a public stock boy over here. He took that idea of learning by doing to heart. He actually developed it as a campaign idea back in the 1970s. And the notion was that you want to try to find a way to connect with everyday Floridians, but it became much more than that for him. So when he was elected governor in 1978 and started serving in 1979, he then served 2 terms, moved from there to the U.S. Senate, where he was elected in 1986 and served until he retired at the end of the session, started the new session in January of 2005. He did about 450 work days. And in those work days, he would literally go and do one of those jobs for a whole day. And again, there are photos all around the room. There are about 450 distinct work days. He drove a concrete truck. He did all kinds of different things, right? And one of the things that he really valued from that was not only that it connected him to everyday Floridians, but he really started to learn and understand the value of the different things that they did, not only in their jobs, but in their communities, right? And so, again, that engage, lead, and serve, and the learning by doing were connected. Internships like the Washington, D.C. internship, or Tallahassee internship, the Gainesville Fellowship, there'll be an info session on that later on in a few days, or a couple of weeks, I guess, actually, right after spring break. They all present these kinds of opportunities. Today, you're going to hear from Dr. Bird about the D.C. opportunity. You'll hear from Karen Thomas and U.S. Office of Government Community Relations. We also have 2 interns here. Misha was a prior intern, and Amanda back here was also a prior intern. So you've got opportunities to hear from people who actually participated in the program. I think it's a great program. It's one that we piloted in spring 2020, the semester the pandemic hit. So it's one that's kind of shifted a little bit over time as we've had to go through different modalities. And so you'll hear about some of that as well. Now it's back to in person fully. For the most part, I think all the placements will be in person this year. And so that also gives you some new experience as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Kevin. Thank you for your engagement. Feel free also to engage in the center more broadly. If you have not, we do a lot of different things here as well. You can learn more about that. Maybe after the session, you can talk to Kevin, Dorothy Zimmerman, our communications person, Amanda, or Misha, all have been involved heavily in the center over time. So thank you again. I'm going to step out and Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Dr. Jacobs. Again, Dr. Jacobs is the director of the Grant Center. We're an academic unit on campus. We have public programs. We sponsor internships. We have student groups. So we invite you into the life of the Grant Center. So today, going to the next slide, we're going to, we've done the welcome. We're going to go over some basic details about the Washington Internship Program. I'm also going to speak generally about internships in that we also sponsor state level internships, city level internships, whose application we will be opening up very soon to work with the city of Gainesville. Karen Thomas from the UF Office of Government Community Relations is going to be speaking about the UF Office of Federal Relations, who our interns interact with a lot while they're in Washington. And we're going to hear from a few of our former interns, including Misha, who is here with us, and we'll have Q&A. We're going to go through the first part of this somewhat concisely so that we get to the Q&A time, especially as we have interns here with us. Well, again, this internship is a partnership between the Graham Center, that's where you're at, here in the Graham Center, well, the O'Neill Reading Room that we use, and the UF Office of Federal Relations. That's really unique because oftentimes with congressional internships, you might land it, but then you've got to figure out everything else on your own, where you're going to find housing. And really, where you're going to find housing that doesn't break the bank. So we come alongside you, along with the UF Office of Federal Relations, and handle things like housing, things like a cost of living scholarship. We also have programming while you're in Washington. I follow along with you so that if there's some big issue that I need to, welcome. If there's some big issue that I need to kind of reach out to your housing partner and help you resolve, I do that. So some of the variables are taken out of it, but also a level of support there with a UF office in Washington. That's a very compelling thing. In fact, some of our people are actually placed there. We offer this internship every fall, spring, and summer. Now, you know, a lot of people think about internships in the summer, and they even have a preference for internships in the summer. But I will tell you that fall and spring are very compelling options because the internship lasts longer. There are less interns in Washington. So the chances of you getting more responsibility or more kind of things handed to you are higher. And so fall and spring internships are compelling. And I would say compelling to the extent that it's worth adjusting your timeline. I often talk with students about thinking about, you know, your goal in college is not just to leave as quickly as possible. You know, you go to the airport and say, give me a ticket on the next plane out. I don't care where it goes. Is that how you fly out of an airport? Not unless you're like running from someone, right? In the same way, your time in college, really, you want to think about the how you use it to your best advantage while you're in this very, very strategic space that will inherently be a bit different once you leave. So think about the University of Florida. Think about your college experience a bit like the Orlando airport. It just goes all over. And we're going to use that time while you're here in a very strategic way, even if you potentially adjust your timeline by one semester. Again, it involves internships fall, spring, and summer. The program, the Washington Internship Program involves the internship, so a placement either in the UF Office of Federal Relations or a congressional office that we help you interview for. We help prepare you to get ready to land an internship in. You have to land the internship oftentimes, and we have some offices laid out. It involves academic credit. So you can go, you can get 0 credit if you don't want to pay any kind of tuition or have any registered credit, or you can go all the way up to 8 credits. We can potentially even do more of just internship because, you know, it's 40 hours a week. So you're earning every bit of that credit, but we can assign you credit through us. And I actually build out a Canvas page, get you to do weekly reflections. I check in with a supervisor. The benefit of this type of thing is that when you're, let's say, in the moment, I can help guide your professional development if there's something to work on. I also have kind of experienced the whole process with you and can serve as a very compelling letter of reference for you after, because it's not just that you went up there and did it on your own. We were kind of with you the whole way. Yeah. So this is a very compelling professional development opportunity. Again, you're interviewing with an office. We're giving you feedback about your professional development. You're having a lot of networking opportunities and so forth. Amanda, are you trying to get to something? Yeah. What's going on? You're trying to move something around? Okay, there we go. Perfect. And then also with the Washington Internship Program, thank you, Amanda, for doing that. Also with the Washington Internship Program, you're going to be working on a project during that semester and give a report to the U.S. Office of Federal Relations, a 5-minute report, which sounds like a very short amount of time, but that kind of ability to condense information in a compelling way that's very clear and cogent is a skill that we're intentionally wanting you to work on. That's oftentimes how long you'll have to share an idea with supervisors or higher ranked leaders. Okay, so again, the internship is a 40-hour-a-week internship in person in Washington, D.C. It generally lasts approximately the term of a regular semester. So let's say for fall, when classes start, it's around that time. When classes end, it ends around that time. We like to register you for our own credit. If for some compelling reason you need to register for credit through your home department, that's not a problem, but you would still register for us at least with 0 credit. I do that because I'm the one following along with you. I'm kind of staying in charge. If I'm helping to kind of help you reflect on the experience the whole time. It does for fall and spring specifically. This internship program involves a $2,000 cost of living scholarship. So, that can really cover a lot of your expenses, especially if you don't eat out and, DoorDash every meal. But if you get some meals and cook and potentially have people order popcorn chicken for you and, that a few times that will help. It also involves a housing scholarship, which covers your housing. We use Washington Internship Housing, WISH Housing. They're, not far from public transportation for you to get to the Hill very quickly. I will say it is dorm style living. So you're going to be in an apartment with multiple people. So it's a quad. You're going to be all there together, working on your communication skills, your problem management skills, and potentially even your conflict management skills in residence and at work. We put you in quads because it allows us to send more people. So yeah, just embrace it. And it also involves professional development support. So I'm going to come alongside you, give you feedback about what your supervisor says, help you think about how to leverage this going forward. Come on in, how you interview, all these types of things. Again, here are some of the placement opportunities. This is really kind of one of the exciting parts. So remember, in this internship, you're representing the University of Florida in a congressional office by people making decisions that affect the University of Florida or in the Office of U.S. Federal Relations. So in a way, you are playing a key role in kind of representing the University of Florida. We establish and maintain a high degree of professionalism in this internship. You can be placed potentially in a congressional office or the U.S. Office of Federal Relations. Again, in any case, you're telling the story of very, prestigious, publicly funded higher education. You're helping us tell that story in very powerful places in Washington. It is a partnership that you're helping to represent your fellow students and the University of Florida. You will often monitor and analyze federal legislation, policy, and in many of these roles. If you're in a congressional office, you're working on constituent relations. You're working on communication projects. You're working on whatever. You're earning trust in that office, and then as they can hand out other things to you, you're working on those things too. If you're in the Office of U.S. Federal Relations, you're working on attending meetings, attending reports, writing notes, getting that information back to the University of Florida's Federal Relations Office, things that are going on in Washington that affect them. Again, you're serving also as and I'm glad we put that. You're going to serve as a resource as we tell the story of this internship program. So when you're in Washington, we will often maybe call on you to speak to a class potentially, or to Zoom in back in Gainesville, so that you can kind of help share the story of this experience with others. Okay, these are some of the placements that we are kind of working at right now. We've got one Washington internship program student here. Let's say Kathy Castor. We're working, I think, on one with Kat Kamek. So these are some of the offices. We have a number of different offices. So I think now we're going to turn it over to Ms. Karen Thomas, who is with the UF Office of Government Community Relations. She's not in Washington, but she's going to speak on their behalf and kind of just introduce you a little bit about that office. Karen?
Hey there, can y'all hear me okay?
Perfect, thank you.
Excellent. Well, hey everybody, my name is Karen Thomas, and as Kevin mentioned, I'm the Assistant Director for Government and Community Relations. I do work here on campus in Taggart Hall, but I also work very, very closely with our team in DC, and I have gotten to know a lot of our interns who have come through the WIP program. And so today, I'll just be kind of speaking a little bit on behalf of our DC team to provide some insight on what the program looks like and who we are from the DC perspective. And so I'll start with who we are. So we are the UF Office of Government and Community Relations, and part of that is the UF Federal Relations. We do have an office that is located right in the heart of DC. Actually, our office building looks over, our office building rooftop kind of looks over the Capitol building. So you are just steps away from all of the action. And in that office in DC, we have three staff members, Sarah Matthias, Alex Kriegstein, and then a federal relations associate who serves as the on-site coordinator for this program. And that is a position that we are currently recruiting for right now. And I like to say that even though we're a team of three, we are a small but mighty team. We definitely punch above our weight and get a lot accomplished with the few team members that we do have on the ground in DC. So a little bit about history of the office. We started this office a little over 4 years ago. And the university leadership recognized that there was a growing need to have a physical presence in DC to kind of be the on-site, boots on the ground advocates for the university. And so in early 2019, we established a physical office and hired one staff member, Sarah Matthias. And so she started that office, and it has now since grown from one staff member to three, and we have a permanent footprint in DC. And so the role of that office is to serve as the official lobbyist for UF in the federal kind of level. And so our job is really to advocate for the university for priorities and funding opportunities at that federal level. So this is, before Congress, before the administration, and serving as kind of the connection to the many federal agencies who fund UF's billion-dollar research enterprise. And so that's a little bit about our office in DC that you'll be working closely with, whether or not you're placed in our office. And so I'll talk a little bit now just about what your experience in DC might look like with relation to kind of the placement that you have and what that networking and experiential learning might look like from our perspective, the things that we're going to do to help enrich your experience here in DC. And so Dr. Bird covered a little bit about the opportunities for placements being both in the Federal Relations Office, working as an embedded part of our UF team in that office that I just talked about, or in a congressional office on Capitol Hill with a member of the Florida delegation. And so our team does work very closely to connect you to your placement office. And so there will be some sort of interview process that you go through with our team, with the Graham Center, as well as our team in DC. And then there may be a second interview that you go through with that placement office as well. And so how you kind of determine where you're placed is we talk to you throughout the interview process about your placement. So we want to understand a little bit more about what you're wanting to accomplish, and kind of where your goals are, where your interests lie, and things like that. And so pro tip, kind of before the interview, do a little bit of self-reflection and maybe a little bit of homework. Know a little bit about what it is that you want to do, where you feel like you might best fit in terms of an office placement. And if there are congressional members that you are interested in the Florida delegation, and that you might like to be placed with. And so I'll talk now a little bit about the differences between those two placements. So if you're placed in a congressional office, generally those congressional members are looking to host interns who are constituents of their home districts. This is not a hard and fast rule, and our office works really hard throughout the year to develop relationships with all of our Florida delegation members and their office staff, so that if your preferences maybe don't align with your home district congressional member, we're able to help you find some other options there. And so while in a congressional office placement, each of those offices approaches their internship program very differently, and those duties can vary widely. You'll work primarily reporting to legislative staff members, and you can expect that your main responsibilities will be handling constituent requests and calls, handling some communications projects, drafting reports and briefing materials, and just generally assisting those staff members in the work that they do. So when Congress is in session, it is a very exciting place to be. It is a hive of activity, and there really is no shortage of work, and you certainly won't be bored. And you may, on occasion, have the opportunity to interact with different members of Congress just by virtue of being in the same building. And so I'll talk now a little bit about the difference between that and the placement with our office. So obviously our office kind of serves as the lobbyist for, on behalf of the university. And so you'll work as literally a member of our team. And so you'll kind of help us as we engage in that advocacy work. And so there's a lot of background work that goes on for that advocacy. So we'll ask you to help us research different issues and policies. We'll ask you to be a part of the preparation when we host fly-ins from leadership and faculty members who come to DC to testify or meet with their congressional members. We're also a member of a lot of national associations. And these associations do a ton of advocacy work on behalf of their members. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of briefings that are held to update members on positions and issues and policies that affect the broader higher ed and research communities. And so there's also at the same time, a lot of times overlapping with those going on with congressional hearings. And sometimes there are other types of meetings happening that require our team's attention. And so we can't be everywhere all at once. And so we do heavily rely on our interns to serve as our eyes and ears. We'll ask you to cover those meetings. We'll ask you to listen into the hearings take detailed notes, distill the information, prepare summaries, and help us prepare as we take forth some of those messages into our own advocacy on behalf of the university. And then there's another little bucket of things, and I'm sure to get a lot of chuckles from our interns who are there now. But sometimes there are special projects and research and events that we'll ask you to help with that don't fall neatly into those other buckets. And so this is where you can really kind of develop some of your critical thinking skills, learn a little bit more about what goes on in DC. And so with that, those are kind of the differences between the two types of placements that you can expect in DC. And then because we know that, spending all of your time in an office doing all of that work is just one piece of the puzzle, we have also worked hard to really develop ways to enrich your time in DC. And so we do that a few ways. One of them is that project that Dr. Bird talked about, those Gator Bite, what we call them, Gator Bite presentations. And this is your opportunity really to apply what you've learned through your internship as you see this advocacy unfolding in front of you. It's your opportunity to make a 5-minute presentation. And like Dr. Bird said, 5 minutes is not a long time, but it really means that you have to be concise in your messaging. And so that presentation is in front of our staff, as well as faculty and staff from the Bob Graham Center. And on an occasion, we've had a provost or a member of leadership who happens to be in town when these Gator Bite presentations are happening, who will listen in. So that's really kind of been a neat experience as well. And so we'll ask you to take kind of what you've learned and apply it to a policy or an issue area of your choice that is related to UF, and apply kind of what you've learned to develop some sort of potential solution or advocacy path for that issue. So this is your opportunity to really kind of turn into a lobbyist, kind of be in that role. And all interns, regardless of your placement, whether you're in a congressional office or whether you are serving with us in the UF Federal Relations Office, all interns participate in this opportunity. And so the final thing that we do to help make your experience in DC well-rounded is we offer some programming as well as networking opportunities. So we don't just put you to work and we don't just ask you to apply that knowledge. We also want to invest in helping you develop your network and kind of get to know a little bit more about what your future goals are, and connect you to alums in DC that maybe have taken a similar path or have experience in those areas or issues that you're interested in, so that you can kind of get to develop your personal network, get to talk to folks who have been in your shoes before, and learn more about the path that they've taken to where they are today. And then the final point that final thing that we do is put on some programming for you. And so we work closely with the Florida House to put together some programming for not only UF interns, but all of the broader interns that are from the state, from Florida. And so you'll be able to connect and interact with interns from all of the SUS schools. So USF, UCF, FAU, all of these students are coming to DC at the same time. And it really helps you connect with those other students, hear about their experience, create your network, so as you begin to think about what the next steps are in your career path. So this is just really, I think, a great opportunity if you've ever had the thought, man, I think I'd like to live in DC, or I think I'd really like to end up in a job that does some of these things where I'm focused on public policy. This is a really great way to test that out, to kind of see if it is something that you want to pursue after graduation, or if it maybe is just something that you think it's a great experience to round out my education at UF. So I think between the internship and the things that you'll experience through your placements, the networking opportunities that we help put together for you, and the programming that you'll be able to tap into, I really think that this is an overall just outstanding program. Now, I know that I'm biased, but I really do think this is an amazing opportunity. And I hope that I get to meet a lot of you through this interview process and as you embark on your journeys to DC. But I will also say that you're going to hear more from 2 interns later on who I have had the pleasure of working with closely. And so I think they'll be able to also provide you with a little bit of insight into the program as well. And so I think that's it for me, Dr. Bird, unless there are other things you want me to cover.
Thank you. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Sure.
So now we're going to hear from a few interns, and let's create a good bit of space for Q&A time and even just some dialogue. So feel free to kind of condense your time down. So Danielle, if you can hear us, maybe we'll let you go first as someone that's actually in Washington now. And please feel free to, welcome. Please feel free to be somewhat concise because I want to create some time for people that are attending just to ask questions. But what would you say is the highlight of your experience so far, or what would you recommend? Why would you recommend this to someone else?
So I'm a senior, I'm graduating this May, and it's been really great being able to come to DC and connect with a lot of people, specifically like Gator alums. They've been really open to getting coffee, going to happy hour, which is really fun. And so I think that's a benefit if you're a senior or graduating overall, is to come to DC and do this program, because it opens up the opportunities that you'll have after graduation. And you can really find like a good idea of what you want to do post-grad. So it's been really nice to be able to do that. And I think that's the highlight of being able to connect with people I met my freshman year who are now working here in DC in like the coolest position. So it's been nice.
Kenyatta, what has been one thing that surprised you about your time so far?
Oh, that's a good one. Honestly, I think it's being able to come home and compare my internship experience. So I'm at the UF Federal Relations office, and my 3 roommates are in a congressional office. So comparing the differences and seeing that our day-to-day is very different has been kind of surprising, because I thought that we would get a similar experience. We still are both learning about the federal government, but they're doing different tasks than what I'm doing. So that's been really interesting.
Thank you. Misha or Andy, would you like to maybe in a concise way, and then we'll create some space, and I even have some questions I'd like to throw to y'all.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Good to see all of you here. My name is Andy Shodell. I'm a senior at UF studying English and political science, graduating this semester. But this most recent semester, I had the great opportunity to intern in Washington, D.C. As a White House intern through the Graham Center in the UF Office of Federal Relations. And that was really an amazing experience. I actually want to share with you guys that I applied 2 times for the Washington internship program before I was accepted on the 3rd time. And I'm pretty sure that if I hadn't persisted through that, just thought, it'll happen when it's meant to, and trusting the staff here and in DC, that I wouldn't have ever even been considered for an internship at the White House either, if I'd gone as like freshman, sophomore, junior. So I highly recommend, if there's something at all interested, just take the chance to apply, take that leap of faith, and I'm sure that it'll all work itself out, and you would definitely really enjoy that experience.
Misha, could you maybe share about your experience, what you feel like you got out of it, or something you'd recommend for those considering it?
Definitely. I think there's a sense of dichotomy when it comes to specialization as well as learning new things. I myself did not know what my interests may lie when it comes to going into DC, but what I did learn is that we have obviously a high need for mental health improvements, for example, on a campus level. And I can see that, there are specific federal bills out there that could support the University of Florida in this endeavor. So what I tried to do is I tried to connect with many professionals within the Florida Hospital Association, the AAMC, organizations like that. And I think just learning about what roles there are in DC, such a attention-centered city, it was just amazing to realize, wow, there are so many other opportunities that I didn't even know existed. And that's just something I learned through the internship as I went.
Questions that you have for our interns? We've got Daniela here. We've got 2 other people, one that serves as an intern in the White House, another in the UF Office of Federal Relations. And Amanda is here too in the back, who has served as one of our interns. Any questions that you have?
What would you say is the most challenging part of your experience as an intern with WIP?
Yeah, great question. I want to start that one off just by kind of inverting the question, because I thought that something that would be very difficult would be interning every day, 9 to 5, waking up early, having that work-life balance and full day schedules, full week schedules. Very different than class, where you don't have to be in the office all day long, all week long. But I actually found it to be a lot more enjoyable, and maybe something more aligned with what I would want to do professionally, guaranteeing for me that that's something I'd want to pursue in the future. You know, I found classes to be more difficult than going in 9 to 5 and doing all day, something that I'm really interested in.
So before we continue, our Zoom participants can enter their questions into the Zoom chat and I'll be reading them as we go.
Yeah, and just so in case they heard that, so if you're participating by Zoom, you can enter a question by the chat and we will be sharing those. You can ask any questions.
I guess how many people do you bring like during this fall and spring?
Well, that really depends on the applicants and the placements. We are often prepared to fund as many as 5. But it could be less depending on what are the offices, what are the applicants. Yeah.
I just want to ask someone from the Federal Relations Office and then also used to a White House intern. What would like your 9 to 5 day look like in terms of when you're waking up, what you're doing specifically in the job?
Oh, yeah. Well, first, yeah, that's a fantastic question, because usually my 9 to 5 would be very different every single day. I'd be sent to various organizations, various think tanks, or maybe even listening to some kind of legislation, like a hearing, whether that be through Zoom or in person. I always love the in-person ones because you never know what you come into. I remember actually running into Matthew McConaughey, just him walking outside of the Capitol. Just because he was giving a speech about the school shootings that were occurring in Texas and his reaction to it, very emotional. And it was just fantastic to actually go and actually hear how politics is being made first person, right? Just being there in person. So my 9 to 5, to answer the question again, it was just various throughout the whole week.
Was yours any different?
I would definitely agree. A lot of celebrities surprisingly will come through because it's the center of like politics of the world, or at least the US, not the world. Scratch that. But it's always very exciting. Every day we'll return.
What would you say, how much work did you have to take back on with you? Because the one thing I understand is that it's not always a 9 to 5 kind of life. It's it's more like wake up at 7:30 or 8, you're not finished with what work you have until well into the night.
That's a good question. Just briefly about the White House specifically. I did notice some differences between me and people I was living with who were doing congressional internships, in that for them, they did have more rigid hours, but I think just for my office, and then in the White House, there are different places you can intern. It's also different by office how often you work, but there were often days where they'd ask me to come in early, stay late, work not in the typical work hours, which was fun.
Which office within the White House could you work with?
I was in the communications office.
Amanda, a question?
I have a question from our Zoom audience, and they are asking, are there intern positions in the forensics field?
Well, that's a great question, and thank you so much. One thing that we do, and I did want to make this about internships, broadly speaking, in addition to our program. One of the ways that internships go is that you can track down internships. Let's say I had a student that we selected last iteration that also landed an internship with the FBI. Well, she's going to end up choosing that because it was a very specific type of interest that she had. And so we celebrated that and lauded her and making that decision. So with things like forensics, you would apply directly to that agency, and you're very welcome to reach out to me. I can give you some ideas. Like, for instance, one of our nonprofit partners, the Washington Center has a federally funded internship with the CDC. Or, you can apply to an internship directly to another government agency. For this program, we are placing people in the UF Office of Federal Relations or congressional offices. That's the kind of standard format of this program. However, that number one, even if you don't get chosen for the small numbers of selections that we're able, because of the matching that we have, the offices we have, because of the period of your studies that you're in, all of the above. That doesn't stop you from applying on your own. It doesn't stop you from applying to other programs even. You wouldn't be a part of our official cohort, so some of the housing scholarship, cost of living scholarship wouldn't be involved, but we could stay in communication if there are other ways that we could support you. That's a great question. Another question, Amanda?
Oh, no, I was just going to add to that question
Yes.
as well. In addition to your comments, within congressional offices as well as the Office of Federal Relations, a lot of times there are students that come from majors that maybe aren't poli-sci or very directly public service related. But there are spots for these interests to be developed. For instance, we had students in the University of Florida Federal Relations Office who were very interested in health issues.
Yes.
And so when they were there, our lobbyists kind of mentored these people into looking at opportunities within health, but still interning for our office. So they would look at health related bills. Same thing as AI. We had an intern that was very interested in technology, and she did a lot of research on AI. And within congressional offices, from what I understand, a lot of these members of Congress have very niche areas of the law that they're very interested in, or very areas of policy that they're interested in. So students who are interested in those very niche areas also have a spot to specialize in those offices. And an example that I can give you is a member of our delegation is very interested in NASA and kind of like defense as well as space issues and policy that has to do with space. So a student that was very interested in astronomy or space would do great in that office, even though it's not a traditional poli-sci track. It is a place where they can develop that interest in the public service sphere.
To that point, we have this coming summer, we have 2 spots that Florida Sea Grant is funding for people who will work specifically in a congressional office or the Office of Office of Federal Relations, but spend a portion of their time working on coastal topics. So we have increased in recent years the number of STEM or environmental science, health science, students from other majors that we are taking. And we have 2, as I mentioned, 2 Florida Sea Grant sponsored students in Washington this coming summer. Okay, other questions? Maybe a question from Daniela. How would you describe life in Washington, D.C.? What do you get to do on the weekends or in the evenings?
It's expensive, but I think the first thing, like the tip that I would give anyone if they do this program is make a budget with your stipend and follow that budget, because there's so many options on things to do in the weekend. So that's another thing is prioritize your time. Make sure that you still have fun while doing class if you have class and also working. But we've done a lot of different things. We just came back from Alexandria this weekend, and we were at the pier, which was really nice. We're planning a trip to Boston, so we'll go to Boston. Everything's kind of close, so that's really nice. But yeah, we go out a lot. It's a great way of getting connected with the roommates, so that's nice.
Is anyone taking or did take classes during their internship and
Great question.
say it was manageable?
Yeah, I'm taking 9 credits now. And it's manageable, but it's rough because sometimes I'll come home at 6 and I have to do class, like I have to do work in order to make up my assignments. I think almost all of us, one of my roommates is here, but I think almost all of us are doing a good 6 to 9 credits, and it's been manageable. We just you have to prioritize school. So remember that. It's easy to forget about an assignment, I'll do it.
Danielle, how many of those are internship credits? Did you do 0 internship credits?
0 for 2. I only have 3 credits for internship. The 6 credits are actual course. Yeah.
Let me just say, my preference as your internship coordinator would not typically be 9 credits. I would want you to maybe be a little less enrolled if possible, so that you're not having to come home and work quite as much in the evenings. So I would say, let's talk ahead of time, because there might be a way for we can kind of plan out for maybe you not to be registered for quite as many, not that you can't do it. But if it's possible not to, to be a little bit more of your evening and weekend freed up, that would be my first choice. It's not always possible, and that's okay. Yes.
I think this goes back to what you were saying about, take your time.
Yeah.
This is not a place, and this is an opportunity that's supposed to just rush you through. As you were all saying, that this gives you an opportunity to figure out what you enjoy doing. So I think it'd be kind of hard. I don't know how she does 9 credits. Yeah.
Well, you might be in that situation where you just have to, and that's okay. Sometimes because of the semester, if you land the internship, that's just kind of where you're at in your curriculum. But if you don't have to, we can plan around that possibly. Yes.
Yeah, I want to ask about this, the projects, it just keeps on getting brought up, 5-minute report. What exactly does that entail?
So you're going to work on a research project during the semester, a topic of your interest. For Misha, it was mental health. For other students, for the Florida Sea Grant students coming this summer, it'll be some coastal topic. And you'll present a presentation, a professionally done presentation at the end of the semester to the UF Office of Federal Relations, the Graham Center, and other stakeholders. The reason for that being, I know that seems like a lot of time, but I'll tell you, and I told some of them, when I presented I researched my dissertation for about 4 years of continual research. And I was asked to present a 5-minute conversation on it. My dissertation is 367 pages. But I had to do a 5-minute presentation on it. Well, the idea is that you need to be able to condense the essential concepts down to something that is illustrative, representative, and compelling. And so in the same way, this is kind of a strategy to get you to tell stories in effective ways with the shortest amount of time. This is often how you'll have to pitch major projects. You will be surprised when you go head of maybe a company or an organization's leaders that you're asked to condense something that you've been working on for quite some time down to like a soundbite. But it's kind of a discipline of to do that. So that's kind of what's going on with that project. Yes.
Everyone kind of did it towards your later years in UF. Would you guys suggest doing it in your later years, or would it also be okay to do it like sophomore year state?
Sorry.
Yes, please.
My best friend, she did it last year. Her name's Clara, and she was a sophomore, I think, when she did it. Was she a sophomore? Yeah, she was a sophomore. And she did the UF Office of Federal Relations too. And I think for her, it opened her eyes and gave her so much more like understanding of the federal government and what she wants to do, that now she's able to kind of apply for internships because she already has the experience and she has an interest in certain areas that she didn't have before. So I would say yes. TIP is also a good option. I did TIP my freshman year, and it was awesome. Yeah, that's the Tallahassee one. So that was a good introduction.
We did with and
Good. Yeah.
that's cool.
Not
the same.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know. For videos.
Let me just follow up with that. So I will say, as of now, we have increased the yield of applicants. And so we will be, juniors and seniors are more competitive. Now, having said that, for freshman and sophomore, what you would think about for first and second year is how do you build a body of work that posits yourself as a kind of being competitive, not just for our internships, but for others. You're going to be more competitive for these offices your second year, your third and fourth year also. This is one reason why kind of rushing out of UF in 3 years, it's a bit, it's actually penultimate in that is your prime time to land higher level internships that will result in better job options and better pay. Yeah. You're most competitive junior senior. So you don't want to rush out the door in that zone of competitiveness. And so for us, the number of applicants that we're getting, you're going to be on summer, we got 94 applicants. I don't imagine we'd have that many for fall, but we just started by only evaluating juniors and seniors. That doesn't mean because the offices find those most competitive when they've got their own 100 applicants. So what you can do in your freshman and sophomore year is prepare yourself for that. One of the things that you could do to prepare yourself to be ready, let's say your junior, senior year, again, if the numbers stay the same, they might not stay the same, and we might go back to evaluating sophomore, level students. With our numbers right now, I don't imagine us evaluating freshmen in our most competitive pool at this time. Again, what you would use your freshman and sophomore time is to build out your body of work in preparation for that. One of the ways you can do that is to work at a district office or a representative or a senator in your home district potentially, or around your home. That can be very compelling because you are establishing a connection with that office that will open up doors if you work hard and have a great attitude, that will open up doors for a placement in an upcoming semester. Does this make sense? So of that 94 applicants, I told the freshmen and sophomores that we weren't even able to kind of look at because we had so many. Again, that would potentially be very different for fall because not as many people think about internships for fall. I said, why don't you think about applying to the district office for your local representative or one that you're aligned with, get that experience, build that connection, and then we build on that in an upcoming term. Yeah. So you want to think about a body of work using time first, second year to posit yourself third, fourth year.
Okay, so I know that this goes to like, well, undergrad.
Undergrads.
Right, so I'm thinking, because currently I'm a third year.
Yeah.
Right. And I know probably in the fall I won't be able to do it, and maybe not even in spring, so I don't know like how, if I'm officially like done with my.
If you're taking a class, you can be in the program. If you're in a combined master's degree, meeting any requirements for your undergraduate degree, you can be in the program. So I would say for this program, extend a semester and take a class, or join a 4+1 master's program.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. I know that sometimes like, oh, just finish now, but I don't know if y'all could like work with them. Or...
No. Now, this is for undergraduates. Now, there are some other graduate opportunities that I can help you look into, but this is for currently enrolled undergraduate students.
Right, so but I can't just extend this semester.
Sure. You would need to have that discussion also with your academic advisor.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I have a question from our Zoom audience.
Yes.
Would enrolling in only IDS 4940, which to clarify is the internship class, be acceptable? Or is it required to take other classes?
No, that's fine. And again, like Daniela and other students, they're having to get certain things done. That's perfect. I mean, that's great for you. If you could potentially not kind of have a heavy semester, that'll be our first choice. But you're welcome just to register for IDS 49, 0 credits, 1 up to 8 credits generally is kind of how we function. If we need to go over that just for your internship, we can. But in general, my goal is to really get you to be able to do some of the things that she's doing. Going to Boston, going to Alexandria, doing these things on the weekends and at night. And generally, we just want to massage that. The things that we talked about, Andy, Misha, anything else you would say as we're kind of wrapping up with information?
One thought is that while I was interning at the White House and doing the IDS class, I also did 6 credits class on top of that. And we still had time to like do fun stuff, go out together, explore. So no matter what, I know it's management and you guys, I would say to take classes if you know you needed to graduate, but either way, like you'll be able to maintain your time on.
Yeah. Misha, anything that this has brought up to mind, and then we'll go to one of our persons. Anything that some of this conversation has put on your mind, or anything that you would comment?
Of course, I think there are 2 notes that I would say. Firstly, of course, when you're already there, try to find that balance between professional experience as well as entertainment and enjoyment. There's so many opportunities in DC to actually have fun. And I know I was like only the bars because I was under 21, so I wasn't able to have that side of things. But I'm talking about things like just going down to the park or playing kickball with DC Gators. They have a fantastic program there that is a bit competitive sports, and that's very entertaining. When it comes to the professional thing, make sure that you know where you are and who you're working for and who your Congress people are. I think that's very important because you never know who's walking by you, and that's a Congressperson or that's a person who works on the Hill. Just
Matthew
making sure.
McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey. He doesn't work on the Hill, but Hollywood is still pretty close, I would say. And of course, making sure that you look like Eventbrite or any other like websites that can have a lot of events that you can attend to. And there's museums everywhere. It's all free and for the residents there. So enjoy your time when you get there.
I was just gonna say, how did anybody, if you see like a college person or someone that you would like to talk to, how did you or would you approach them to like make that connection?
Your job is to talk to people. So you usually use people's titles like Mr. Bird, Dr. Bird, it's doctor. Yeah. Or like for oh hi, representative of your Salazar. So nice to see you in person. Something like that.
I would always have a card with me or like on my phone notes. Just a quick fact about them. Just to make sure that whenever I do run into someone, I'll have a question ready. Or like I know that Representative Wasserman Schultz, she has a daughter who went to UF and she was in UF Senate with me. So I would always have that question up. I'm like, oh, how's your daughter doing? And at first she thought it was creepy, but then I ran into her 2 more times and then she understood why I was asking. And then I think that connection was formed.
Back and jumping past that. Okay, you have a question? Did you have a question? No? No? Oh, yes,
I'm gonna take your last question.
Yeah. and then we're gonna eat some more popcorn chicken.
Yeah, I was just wondering, sort of a relevant question, but who was like the highest ranking person you saw in Washington? Sort of.
President
I think interns are technically higher ranking.
Yeah.
All of us are the highest ranking. But yeah, the president's all over the place. One time I walked out of our house in Capitol Hill, the Beast, the car that like drives in places, was parked right in front of our house. I was like, seriously, like work follows me everywhere, bro. Like that's just funny. But yeah, they're all over the place.
Nice. Well, yes,
One more thing, it's what would be the one thing you say that we need to do, like a fun experience that we need to do before we leave DC?
My goodness.
It's like a must. You can't leave DC without doing it.
The spy museum, maybe. I think that's what's and maybe it could be a little bit more kid-like, but it's definitely amazing. You just go in there and learn about spy gadgets. And then of course you can run into some people working there that are really cool.
I'm gonna go with any of the monuments, because essentially when you're, I mean, any events that you see them, I know the National Mall, you're gonna see, the big, not sure what it's called, but it's going to be in the center of the National Mall, and it's like the big structure, and then you're gonna. Yeah. So basically, and you're walking and you're gonna come to, the Lincoln statue. I think walking that, especially in the afternoon, it was definitely one of those moments that we did it several times.
let me just conclude by saying, we wanted this to be about the Washington Internship Program, but I also encourage you just to think about experiential learning. Let's think about internships, preparing yourself and building a body of work. I would encourage you to think about more than one internship, because placements, a given placement in the Washington Internship Program or through our nonprofit partner, the Washington Center, or let's say through Tallahassee, these can build on each other. When you're applying to jobs and you've got several supervisor references, you can kind of tell stories of when you were actually working in an office. You are going to land better jobs and you're going to get more competitive pay. So the time that you spend in college will help you come out of college at a more advanced place. So I would even say, even think about the possibility of more than one internship. It will be worth your time when you're kind of going forward. You will have better letters of reference, you will have better framework, you will have better experience, you will be a more competitive candidate. If you're in your first or second year, this is a perfect time to learn about this, to absolutely apply, but also to consider additional options like working in a home district office in the immediate as you're preparing yourself to be even more competitive going forward. Thank you for your time and please stay in touch.